Okay, I'm here back in my kitchen, but my face is going to have to be out of the shot for a little while so that I can show you what I'm actually doing. So bear with me. I've got here my kitchen string, just plain old twine. So there's no bleach or artificial colours. So when you're burning the sage, you're not going to be burning any toxic or flammable material, apart from the sage, of course. So here's one of the bunches. So there is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stems there, and that's the length. So I'm doing a really nice sized sage bundle here. So what we do is grab the end of our twine, and the trick to doing this, so as I've mentioned before, you need to do this when they're freshly cut, nice and pliable, and we need to start winding as tightly as we can. Okay, so I'm holding it and I'm squeezing literally the leaves together as I go round and around and around. And it's probably about 1 centimetre in between each turn. And I'm just trying to make, literally I'm pulling it as tight as I can. Okay. So it doesn't really take that long to make these yourself, and I know they can be quite expensive in some shops, so if you can make your own, it's always the way to go, isn't it? So I should have mentioned, if you don't want to get sticky resin sage all over your fingers, my hands are really quite sticky at the moment, try putting some rubber gloves on. I should have thought of that before I started this, shouldn't I? But I don't mind. I absolutely love the smell of sage. And if you've got any leftover leaves too, don't throw them away. You can just boil the kettle and have yourself a nice cup of sage tea. Just a couple of leaves in a cup of boiling water and let it steep for a few minutes. And sage, as I mentioned, is so lovely and antibacterial that if you've got a sore throat coming on, it's a great thing to have, or a sore throat. So you can see I'm just coming back down now, down the stem, because I'm going to tie it off at the end. Okay, it's really nice and tight. Look how much that's shrunk. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that off and tie that to the other end. I should have left a little bit more of a gap, a bit more twine. But we can tidy it up at the end once you've just tied a nice tight knot. Nice and tight. Maybe one more to be sure. And there is your smudge stick. So the next step that we need to do is hang this up somewhere that's nice and dry and let it dry out. Now this can take a couple of weeks depending on how humid or dry the air is in your house, or you can even leave a little bit of extra string at the end, and I've even hung it on my indoor clothesline in the garage for a few weeks till it's really, really dry. Because if you try and burn it when it's still wet, sometimes you can get mold if you don't allow it to dry thoroughly, but you want it to burn, so it needs to be really dry, so at least a couple of weeks before you use it. Enjoy. Thank you for listening.